Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You've probably heard before, somebody could be somebody you know, even on TV, connections, whatever. When somebody says, I'm blank months or years sober from something that they've dealt with. Imagine if you've had anxiety and you're able to say, I've got anxiety sobriety and not have to deal with it like you used to. We're going to talk about that today. I bestow this title on him. He's the anxiety expert. He's really made it his life's work to help people with anxiety, created a book, created a workbook, a program to help us get through it. We all have anxiety from time to time. Sometimes it's more escalated for others. And that's why he's here. He's the owner and mental health counselor and coach at Healthy Counseling Center. Dr. Ray Smith joins us once again. Ray, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very well. I'm glad to get to be with you and see if we can make a difference in people who are suffering with anxiety.
Can we look at a situation, maybe somebody you've dealt with, and how you worked them through a challenge?
Yes. I would give you a case study of a patient of mine that I've labeled Yes, But. This is someone who's struggling with very severe anxiety and has medication to help with that. But there is something always that keeps her afraid and stuck. She is morbidly obese, and she will say, I need diet and exercise, but that's uncomfortable. She has a comfort zone. She's willing to do anything for her anxiety as long as it doesn't make her uncomfortable. It keeps her pretty stuck. She never feels good enough, but she doesn't want to do things to improve her self-esteem. She is scared of getting fired at work, but won't pay attention that she gets bonuses and raises and affirmations at work all the time. Socially, she's scared of growing old and being alone. She wants to get married and have a family, but she's afraid to go out in social circles to meet anybody. And she would like to have company and be a hostess, but her house is such a mess that she couldn't allow anybody to come over. So what I want for her is anxiety sobriety, so that she doesn't have to live under that pressure all the time of toxic anxiety. If you've ever looked at a quarter, at the top of it, it says liberty. That's what anxiety sobriety is. The liberty to think about things in different ways, to have something that's empowering to deal with your emotion, to have liberty for how you think and behave. And that's what I want for her. My purpose is preventing and healing relationship problems. Well, she has a relationship with herself that's very toxic. She doesn't love her very much because of all her fears. I want her to have relationships with other people. And I think as she makes progress with her anxiety, she'll be a great bride for somebody who wants somebody to love them back. The problem with her anxiety is its severity. You said it. We all have anxiety. We have smoke detectors in our house, and they're all tied together. So if one senses something, they all go off. And in two of the rooms, we have such high ceilings that I have to get a step ladder to get up there and do something about it. But the problem isn't the smoke detector. I could get up there and take the batteries out and do something, but the smoke detectors have a purpose. They are not supposed to cause anxiety. They're supposed to help us do something to make sure there's not a fire in the house and that there's not toxic smoke going through the house. And good levels of anxiety are the same way. They are something to need to pay attention here. You need to anticipate something. Something could happen that you want to be prepared for. And good anxiety is good for us. I would like for her to have such anxiety sobriety that none of the toxic stuff would be there anymore. And she could learn to like anxiety. Because if anxiety helped her to be prepared for the next day at work or to meet somebody socially, then anxiety could be her friend and one of her best tools for living out each day. So the strategy that I'm using to try and reduce her yes, but stuckness is called cognitive behavioral therapy. And the idea of it is to look at stinking thinking, the irrational thoughts that we have. And she has a couple of them that are really predominant. One of them is all or nothing thinking. So if she's not all bad, then she doesn't know what she is. She's got that inner critic that tells her she's not good enough. And she has the mindset that it's either perfect or complete failure. Again, in school, we learned there was A minus and B plus and C's and D's. There's a whole range of things between perfect and failure. And she can be excellent in many of the aspects of her life. She doesn't have to feel trapped and stuck. But it's a cognitive distortion to think it's all or nothing. And so if she makes a mistake, she punishes herself. She worries about mistakes she may have made a decade ago and stays stuck on those for the reason that to change it would be uncomfortable. Well, we've been uncomfortable all of our lives. When we learned to walk, we were very uncomfortable. We fell forward and backward and left and right, and eventually we got it. I think the yes, but lady could feel some discomfort and then the relief that there's no more falling, there's no more stuckness. And the second thing we're really working on is the overgeneralization. So if anything would get out of her comfort zone at all, then she's got to shut it down. Even taking the trash out of her place, she's got to shut that down because everything is bad if one thing is bad. So changing those cognitive distortions is the process of getting her from toxic levels of anxiety to those normal kinds of anxiety that want to be our friend and help us alert us to something that could improve. And for her, anxiety sobriety will be liberty. She will no longer be changed by that yes, but thinking. I'm going on and on. Does that kind of make sense, Steve?
It truly does. And I want to look at how you help somebody like that. So she has a lack of confidence
Yes.
in herself, which many of us do, but it seems that this has escalated, and she even thinks back to situations in her past that kind of pilot her now. That being said, how do you work with somebody through the anxiety if they're lacking confidence? Do we first build their confidence up?
No, you accept her where she is and try and be empathetic and come alongside and validate the parts that she's got right. There are good reasons for her to be stuck. And teaching her rational thought. For example, what if you did an experiment and socially you went out and you met some people or took a group of people from work out for coffee or something like that and did an experiment? Did they all pull out guns and knives and try and kill you? Well, of course not. So the reasonable thought would be stick your neck out there and try to see if what you're doing is logical or makes sense. I call it often the turtle reflex, where something goes wrong and it's uncomfortable and you go into your shell to protect yourself. I understand that. There's times all of us need to pull in a little bit and protect ourselves or lick our wounds or something. But you don't make any progress as a turtle if you don't stick your neck out there and stick your feet out there and change your mind. I think the world could be safe again, and go out there and give it a shot and maybe get some hurt, maybe get some discomfort. All of us like to be comfortable. It's just she's gotten addicted to it. It's too much.
Is it the proverbial snowball down the hill? She started here, and it just over time her confidence snowball got bigger and bigger rolling down that hill?
Yes. Uh, the yes but lady started off with social anxiety when she was a child and ate alone at lunch, didn't play with the other kids. She found her niche by being an excellent student. There, she could build her self confidence. She could get the A's and get that feedback from teachers that your behavior is great and your academic performance is great. She just somehow was unable to put that in the other dimensions of her life and say, okay, if I can make it in the classroom, I can sure make it out on recess. And so far, she's not been able to conquer all that.
Hmm. It's, I feel for her. Like I
Me
don't
too.
know who this person is. I feel like I'm seeing her life and want to do whatever I can because I felt it. Yeah, I was at that kid that ate lunch alone, got picked
Oh,
on, bullied on back in the day and lacked
uh,
confidence and took time to build that up. So I get it. And maybe there was anxiety involved for me along the way. Of course. Um,
and I hope everybody who's listening would feel that compassion for her. She's not being held up as a case study that life is ruined and terrible and all of us should fear the stuff she does. No, this is heartbreaking. And to know that she's suffering this way, hopefully we'd all have the same response you do, that I want to do something. I want to be something. I want to give her something. Hopefully we will do that to ourselves and others in our circle. I've got to keep her anonymity because she's a patient. But as you said, probably everybody knows somebody in their circle that is suffering with anxiety. Maybe not as severely as hers, but maybe all of them need a word of encouragement so that they could be more courageous, stick their neck out, and try it again.
hmm. What's the starting point for somebody like that? Well, how do you work with them? And now that we have her makeup, what's going on there? That it's a sounds like a severe lack of confidence that's creating the anxiety. You find ways to help her accept herself as she is. Is that it?
Mhm. Part of it.
Hmm.
Studies have shown for decades that the most courageous thing that most of our patients do is make that original phone call for an appointment. At some point, we make an appointment with the dentist. At some point, we make an appointment with a surgeon
Hmm.
because, in a way, we've kind of bottomed out. I can't do this anymore by myself, so I want to recruit help. And that is a great sign of maturity. Nobody wants to give themselves a colonoscopy. We all want somebody to help us to take a look inside and see if there's something we can do about our problems. So that's what happened with her. When she made that initial phone call to set up an appointment and an assessment, she was hurting badly enough to say yes and not yes, but I want an appointment, but I don't want to change. No, I'm in enough suffering that I want to do something about it. And I praise her. She's been open to medication and trying different forms of therapies.
Hmm.
And once she came in, the magic of therapy is giving her unconditional positive regard and respect. I could say something brilliant to her right now, but the importance is our relationship. She trusts me now. She knows that when I give this case study, my heart is heavy for the pain that she's gone through. Once we have that therapeutic alliance, then she can start experimenting with even other things. She would like to have an emergency fund, but she would rather go out to eat. There are all those conflicts in our life that just having somebody else to say, hey, take a look at this with me. And maybe there's another way. So part of it is just good old fashioned hope. And I often tell that to my patients. They say my situation is hopeless. I'm helpless to do anything about it. And I offer them, I say, well, you can borrow my hope until yours comes back. And it makes them think, you mean there is hope for something more or better or different? I don't have to be stuck with this. It is an exciting idea that things could improve. It's the growth mindset that I am empowered to make things better.
Are you a proponent of the language you use? Like the word hope is very powerful. Many times people let's say in her situation, we'll say, I can beat this anxiety thing. I hope I can. Instead of saying that, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to thrive. I'm going to find a way to build up my confidence. Do you work with people on the language level?
I do. And in fact, I teach them affirmations so that as they think about what their goal is, to have that liberty, that anxiety, sobriety, to build that in for their conversation with themselves, maybe even practice it every day. I am free of toxic anxiety. I am at liberty to be a choice maker. When you affirm those things and you hear yourself say it in your own voice, it's more convincing. It's almost like she has been in a cult where she's been programmed that she is stuck. Well, what if we deprogrammed that and then reprogrammed her with what she would like to see coming a year from today? And I like these new phones because she can record in there her affirmations. If she said, I am confident, and then repeated it, I am confident. I am confident. I am confident. I am confident. If she hears herself say that, she's going to reprogram her brain. The toxic inner critic that has been telling her lies and irrational stinking thinking, get that deprogrammed. Now let's reprogram with what is true and helpful and right, and that there's evidence for it. She is not inadequate. She is not just a star in school. She is a good human with lots of potential. If she could claim it, she can become it. The reason for affirmations being stated in the current for the future is to sort of believe you into a more positive, rational way of thinking about things.
Wow. I love that language and
Okay.
the I am confident. I am confident. I learned that years ago and I forgot about it until you just said it.
Well, it works.
Yeah.
And in her case, it needs to be said positively. It can't be, I'm not stuck. Well, then you're having stuckness in there. I am free. I have liberty. I can make choices. Those are empowering for her. And you want to live into that. Even a simple thing, I have a healthy body. Well, she doesn't right now. She goes to lots of doctors and has lots of problems. But if that's what she'd like to be, maybe today she could just simply drink more water. Maybe tomorrow she could just do one thing that would be active to walk around a little bit. But those incremental changes add up. As you said it, she didn't begin life with that toxic level of anxiety. It built up over time. Well, just the opposite is going to happen too, and reducing it to a healthy level of anxiety. The things that she thinks need to be like the smoke detectors. When something's wrong, let me know. And then have that self-confidence. I can handle this. I got this.
Do you feel, Ray, that a lot of her medical issues come from this?
Yes, I do. And there's been a lot of studies about that too. As high as 70% of the people in hospitals have an anxiety disorder too. And so, why'd you get that ulcer? Well, I've stuffed my feelings. Talking with a lady yesterday who said food was her only friend. And when she got stressed and anxious, she ate. And that was her alcohol or drugs or whatever else. That was the way she chose to comfort herself rather than to think about it a different way. Now, what are my other choices here than food? Well, I guess I could call my mom. Yeah, let's do that. And just find those other options because that's what liberty gives you. You have choices. You can make a better choice. You can evaluate things and do what you think is best for all. Excuse me.
And with the word liberty also comes liberation.
Yep.
Tell me about your book and your workbook, Anxiety Quest. And let's say even in her situation, somebody's listening, lacking self-confidence, leads to anxiety. How would the book and workbook support them?
In a couple of ways. One of the biggest surprises to me was the section that's in there on brain chemistry. I thought that would bore people to death, but I had a patient who bought the book and read that part and felt so relieved. Oh, there's something going on biochemically, electrically, hormonally in the brain. This is not me just being a blankety blank. Right. So when you look at the book, you can identify with some of the stories in there, but also some of the theories for recovery. I especially like EFT tapping, emotional freedom. You and I practiced that a little bit. So when somebody gets on the path, compare it to King Arthur. He pulled the sword from the stone, and there was Merlin to help him grow up and become the king of Camelot. Well, that's a journey. That's a quest for liberation. And for her to start that quest, almost like stepping stones of how you get there, I like the Audible version of Anxiety Quest, and it really dovetails with the workbook very well. And Dan Levy, the man who recorded it, has such a great voice. I would rather hear him read it than me. But you read a part, put it on pause, and then do the workbook and do some journaling and answer some questions and rank some things. How true of this symptom do you feel? And it helps you to take some assessments. How much of severe anxiety do I have? Well, if you do that the first day, let's say she had done an anxiety inventory, like the one I like the best is David Burns, and it's on my website. Well, if you put a number, maybe her number when she first started would be 90. And maybe the third week it would be 75. And by the time she had worked her way through a few chapters in the book, it was down at 50. And maybe she'll never have no anxiety, but she may have no toxic anxiety. Hopefully, she will always accept the smoke detectors in her life to say, hey, you go get ready. There's something that could happen in the future where you do need an emergency fund in case the car breaks down or whatever. And that is her friend, to feel a little of that healthy anxiety. I'm sure before King Arthur went into battle, he went and talked to Merlin. I need a spell or I need to do something so I can really win this. Well, she needs a Merlin in her life to help coach her toward that liberation from what she's been doing that is so toxic for her. She feels stuck.
Now, you've said toxic anxiety a few times. How do you define it?
It is the amount of anxiety. So the traditional measurements are frequency, intensity, duration, and impact on relationships. So if you have an anxious feeling like the smoke detector going off once a week or once a month, then you could embrace it and say, hey, this is a good thing for my body to tell me about. But if it's happening multiple times a day, that's too much. The intensity, if you hear the smoke detector go off and you go and check and everybody's safe and there's no smoke in the house, it just has a problem, you've investigated that and it's not too intense. But if it wakes you up and there's smoke in the house and you need to get everybody out and call 911, then that intensity is too much. Nobody wants to be in a house fire. The duration when your smoke detector goes off with anxiety, is it just a fleeting buzz or is it something that is endless? The duration of those toxic levels of anxiety can go on and untreated. They can lead people like the agoraphobics who can't even put a foot out of the bed in the morning because it's too scary out there. And then lastly was that impact on relationships. The lady in our case study, she can't go to Bible studies at her church or other ways to hang out socially and meet people. It is very limiting, very isolating, and lonely. When she says she wants to get married, good. That should motivate her to get out there and meet people and, somebody tell her, hey, my cousin got divorced a couple of years ago. Let's try him, But if she is frozen with the, I want to meet people, but it's too scary, or I'd like to get married, but there's a chance of failure. To get her out of that, lower the frequency, intensity, duration, and impact, then she's going to be at liberty. She will have anxiety sobriety. She won't be addicted to stuckness.
I feel for her.
Me too. And I want to do something about it. That's my purpose.
Yep. And I am connected, have been connected to people with elevated levels of anxiety and have helped support them as well. So I get it, but I'm not you. I'm not trained in this. Tell us, Ray, how we connect with you, either for counseling, therapy, or even the book and the workbook.
Well, to contact with me easily is drraysmith.com. So our podcast, the book, the workbook, the Audible are all available through the website, and the phone number's on there, the fax is on there. If you want to get a referral from your physician for treating an anxiety disorder, all that information is at drraysmith.com. The easiest way to start this quest for anxiety sobriety is to admit it. I look and I see, maybe I ought to go to the website. I want to have the courage to do something about this. Maybe there's hope for me. So then when you look up drraysmith.com, okay, there's all kinds of stuff there, including interviews with Steve. Hopefully that will lead toward liberty. There is sobriety from this excessive worry and nervousness and body sweats and all the different things that come with toxic levels of anxiety. And then to make peace and embrace normal anxiety. So if Memorial Day weekend, people are going to take a trip coming up in a couple of weeks, they need to have a little bit of anxiety. Did I get the stove turned off? Do I have the right things in the suitcase? Whatever that they're going to need to go camping or on vacation. And so a little bit of anxiety is our friend to say, get ready. You want to be prepared. There's something out there that could happen. And all of that and assessments and all for anxiety are on the website. So it's convenient. You can get a free Kindle download of the book, and Amazon has the book and the workbook and the Audible and the Kindle. So if you have a Kindle subscription, it's free and easy.
Fantastic talking with you, Ray. Your passion is off the scale for helping people, not just with anxiety, but all challenges, mentally connected. It has been a pleasure during these podcasts, talking with you, learning about the process and everything you've designed. Nobody else on the planet focuses on helping and treating people, supporting people with anxiety like you. And it's amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on and helping me get the word out that you don't have to be stuck with yes, but.
No buts about it. No pun intended.
That's right.
For sure.
That humor is a good way to use it for anxiety too.
Doctor, that's drraysmith.com. And, you can conquer it. And we're here for you. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, I hope. Again.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.